then it becomes a learning moment rather than it being, well, I'm vegan 80% of the time. How can you be vegan 80% of the time? That doesn't even make any sense. Are you Catholic 80% of the time? You know, so not to say vegan is religion, but it's just like, you know,
Hey, Empowered Vegan Lifers, Ella here with my co-host. Hey, Stephanie.
Hey, Ella. What's going on?
What's going on? Well, I do have some news.
Tell me.
Well, you know how people get ghosted? Like, that's a thing?
Yes.
That's a thing. I got ghosted.
I know. And, you know, I really want to just...
Wait, we didn't talk about that here, did we?
We didn't talk about it here, but we talked about it. Yeah, we chatted about it.
Yes.
And I really just want to like go find him.
Well, I'm going to see him eventually. We have different, I mean, we have similar friends. So yeah, it's just interesting. So for you guys out there listening, I've been sharing some of my dating experiences because I'm getting myself out there again on the dating scene, trying out some vegan dating apps and some regular dating apps. And I had a date, like my first date in a very long time. We had a great time, actually. And that was surprising because at the last minute, I took a look at his Facebook page and I was not so sure I was on my way to something that I wanted to be on my way to, but I sucked it up and said, you know what, I'm just going to go and make the most of it. And we actually had a really good time. And the next day he texted me and said, "Good morning, beautiful." And we started to have little conversations. And then maybe I dropped the ball. Maybe I sent him a couple vegan website links and maybe that was overwhelming to him. And maybe he decided just never to talk to me again.
My God. You know, if a couple of vegan websites is going to cause him to bolt.
Exactly.
I mean, seriously, where's your balls, man? That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And we have similar friends. It's going to come back. I don't know. Who knows? On to the next. That's what you got to do in the dating game. On to the next.
Yep.
That's it.
Isn't there a song? Thank you. Next. Oh yeah. It's Ariana Grande.
Oh, really?
Thank you. Yeah. Next.
Oh, I don't. Are you singing it?
I was singing it, but I'm not sure that I should sing it more.
But
I'm not Ariana Grande. I think it's like, thank you, next, thank you, next.
That is perfect. I'm not up on like the new music very much. I feel very old when we start talking about music because I always go back to the goodies myself. Like everything before 2010, I would say.
I hear you. Yeah. No, when I'm by myself, that's what I go to as well. And much earlier than 2010 as well. But when I'm with the kids, I have to be cool.
Of course. Well, and then I have to get my cool
relevant. Yeah. And then I pass my cool on to you.
Yes. So it's a very important chain.
It is an important chain and one that we take care of. Yes. I mean, we really foster this. So.
Oh my gosh. I'm really excited about today's episode because this is somebody that's local to South Florida and Miami and Miami Beach, Sean Russell. And one of the things he does is he creates lots of events. And I was curious, Stephanie, do you have many vegan events in your neck of the woods?
There are more and more in Kansas City. You know, you can go to vegan events several times throughout the year, but we do not have a very solid community here, I wouldn't say. It's growing. It is growing. Absolutely.
Well, you need a Sean Russell is what you need.
We do. We need a Sean Russell.
Yeah, he is phenomenal. And I can't wait for everybody to hear. Before we get to that, I have one more segment that we could participate in called Lovin' on the Haters. Remember this one?
I love Lovin' on the Haters.
It's been a while. We haven't had many haters lately.
I know. And that's been wonderful because really I love loving on the haters, but I also get a little nervous.
Yeah. Well, this one's, we have to laugh at this one. It's not too harsh, but it's just interesting. So we'll give credit to Mary Burns. And I'm going to say that because she posted a comment on LinkedIn and I think maybe Facebook too. So she is okay being out there.
Okay.
I had done this post that was Shy with the piggies on Hogs and Kisses Farm Sanctuary in the background.
Yeah.
And Shy is saying to us, thank you humans for taking care of farm animals. I can't remember the exact, but for caring for farm animals.
Yeah.
Cute.
It was super cute. I remember it.
You remember that? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we got a comment. Somebody said, shouldn't that be, oh, there's something wrong with your post. Shouldn't that be a farm animal saying that?
Oh.
like that's what you saw out of that? Like, really? Now you're going to criticize our sanctuary post being cute? I mean, come on.
Oh, Mary.
Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the feedback, Mary. We love you. Literally. Anything else going on in your world, Stephanie?
It's almost my birthday.
Yes, it is. We are 5 days away and counting.
We are 5 days away and counting.
And how young are you turning?
I am going to be 39 again.
And I only asked because I knew that's what you were going to say.
I've been saying that now for 10 years. So it's kind of gotten an old joke, but yeah, I'm going to be 49. Woo! I can't believe it. I know.
That's incredible.
I am almost a half a century old.
How does that feel? I'm getting there.
It feels exactly the same way as it did when I turned 19. Except that I am wiser and I'm not as flexible.
Flexible, like physically?
Both.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well,
I was thinking physically, but it's probably fits otherwise as well.
Oh man. Well, I am excited you're having a birthday because that means you're still here with us and I love you and I am so grateful for the day that you were born into this world.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you to your parents as well.
They did all the work.
All right. All right. So let's get to it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sean. Sean Russell is a professional media producer and consultant with over 26 years of experience. He's worked with MTV, ABC, NBC, the Miami Marlins, and served as the district webmaster for Broward County Public Schools. Currently, Sean serves as the creative director of Lazarus Media and is founder of SoFlo Vegans community. He didn't put this in his short bio, but he also has a fantastic podcast, SoFlo Vegans. And actually, I was on one of his most recent episodes, so an episode from December. The full bio will be in the show notes, so I will let you read that because I want to get right to this interview. Let's do it. Hey, Sean, thanks for joining me today.
Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm really excited for our conversation. I was just looking on your website and I saw the really freaking cool event coming up this weekend on Saturday with the SoFlo Vegans night with the Miami Heat and So Be Vegan. You guys do the coolest events, I swear.
Oh man, it's so much fun, being able to think outside the box and create new things. It comes with its challenges, of course, but we're going to continue to do it.
Do you have a big team? Because you do a lot of events.
We definitely have people that support. We are heavy on media. So I do the majority, if not all the media for the most part, but it's great to have people on the team that can support at live events, contribute ideas. So I'm feeling definitely blessed.
Yeah, and I want to definitely talk about community with you because I know that's one of your specialties is building communities. But for our audience who have maybe never met you, can you share your going vegan journey? I know it started in 2010, 11, something like that.
Yeah, it started actually 2008. 2008. And 2008, before then, I was always a picky eater. And I eliminated dairy from my diet, I want to say like 2003, red meat, 2004. So I was just systematically removing things, found a resource where it essentially showed me told me about everything that I was putting into my body. So once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. I lost over 60 pounds in that time period.
Nice.
Then I was like, okay, what's next? So I saw a coworker I worked at an elementary school. Shout out to Silver Ridge Elementary. I met up with a vegetarian coworker, and I always thought her vibe was so cool and so chill. I thought, oh, maybe it's because she's vegetarian. And she telling me about veganism. I'm like, okay, there's like 2 things missing and I'll become vegan. Let me just go all the way and become vegan. So I learned what that was, searched. The information was as readily available back then as it is now, but I found out enough to make Whole Foods my best friend. So I got all my foods. It was rocking and rolling for a couple of months, then went to a trip. And I remember it was 2009, July 2009, because it was around the same time Michael Jackson died. And I knew I was going around the Staples Center where his funeral was going to be had. So I ended up going there, and you would think in LA of all places, you wouldn't have any issue, being vegan, but I just goes to show you if you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up falling off and backsliding a little bit. And it wasn't until around 2013 I was ready again, but this time the missing element was community. And I knew my background in building community, that's what I wanted. That was my next big project. I was coming off another one. I was doing anime and manga stuff. So I came off of that, said, I'm going all in on this vegan thing, started having meetings at my complex, and then slowly built and launched 2017.
How did community get to be your thing? Did it come naturally to you? Was that kind of a natural talent, or is there any story behind that?
I mean, it was an evolution of just my interest growing outside of my interests. And what I mean by that is I've always been fascinated by bringing people together to create something. So it was mainly podcasts, videos, writing articles, blogs, things of that nature. So I've done that multiple times, but it wasn't until later in my life when I start doing work on myself and doing some transformational exercises and what have you, that I realized what I was really doing was building a community of people around a shared interest. Mm-hmm. So by the time I was ready to go vegan, all the pieces just kind of clicked together. Like, oh, wow, everything that I've been doing, I was focused more on the media side and putting out content, but I was really building a community of people. So I just duplicated that with SoFlo Vegans. But the big difference, what I was doing before was really just online. I'd do an occasional conference here or there, but everybody was connected globally. This is really the first time that I was connecting people in my own backyard, meeting them in person. So there was a little bit of a learning curve for me, building it up over the years, but now I'm at a place where it's like, okay, I know exactly what I want. I know how to do it. I just get to pull people together to make it happen.
I love that. And you've built such an amazing community with SoFlo Vegans. And I have to tell you, this is not my specialty whatsoever. I'm like a super introvert. Are you super extrovert?
No, I'm actually,
No?
I'm more of an introvert than anything, but I would consider myself an extroverted introvert. Based on, if I'm really excited about something, the extroverted qualities of me will come out. But if I am not super interested, I'll kind of shrink and become more of an introvert. So I'm selective. Like selective hearing. I'm a selective extrovert.
Got it. Okay. Understood. Okay. So how did the SoFlo Vegans, how did it start? How did it grow? And where is it today?
So it started around 2014 after I went vegan the second time. I knew that I wanted to build a community. I joined Meetup, and there was a group called South Florida Vegans. So I was just kind of finding out about events through there and, going to maybe one or two. I wasn't super involved, but I was getting familiar. 2016 at the Veg Fest in Fort Lauderdale, I had a chance encounter with Susan Hargreaves from Animal Hero Kids. She enrolled me to be Ronnie the Cow. So I wore a cow costume pretty much. It felt like 3 hours, but it was probably like an hour. I was on stage dancing. I actually just posted a video of me doing it. But this is around 2016. And from there, I started working with Animal Hero Kids. It's a nonprofit organization, and start introducing me to different people. She introduced me to Allison and Michelle from Seed, Food, and Wine. Then I started working with them. So I was just slowly introducing myself to people in the community, started building up my network, and in 2017 started launching. We were doing events on a monthly basis. You know, up until now, we probably hosted over 300 events, hosted and produced over 300 events. And then it's just been growing from there. Another pivotal moment was Veg Fest again in Fort Lauderdale, 2018. Is where I met a lot of people who ended up being pivotal parts of our community. I met Alba there, who, if you're familiar with SoFlo, you're familiar with Alba. I met Amelia, who went on to help produce a lot of events. So, you know, that just compounded the importance of not just being online for me. Like, this gets to be something where we have events where we can meet people in person. I make sure I do my best to show up at every event, whether I'm involved or not, because it's like you go out there and you're like, it's like a reunion each time you go, especially if you're really out there involved in the community. And it reminds me why I'm doing this, because I could produce content for anything, but for me, this is important because it's my lifestyle and it's tied to a bigger purpose outside of myself.
Got it. And you talk about your why, your current why for veganism, as I believe you talk about compassion. Is that right?
Correct.
Can you talk about what that means to you? What does compassion mean to you?
So for me, and this goes back to a lot of the work that I've done on myself for the past 3 years, it's about intention. It's about who I'm being less than what I'm doing, because I could be doing something and being a certain way, and it could backfire on me. It could give off the opposite of impression of what I'm doing. So for me, I go through my mood swings, and, things trigger me based off of childhood traumas and all these different things. I'm in the process of just being aware of those things. And part of that awareness is for me to remind myself to be compassionate in that situation. And when I'm saying compassion, I'm not necessarily saying be nice, turn the other cheek. For me, compassion is more of just who I'm being in that moment. I get to choose whether or not I want to be compassionate. The same way I get to choose if I want to wallow in whatever I'm experiencing, because that for me is also good, because sometimes I will brush my feelings underneath the table and they'll just continue to boil up until I explode. So if I at least acknowledge, oh, I'm feeling crappy, I can then sit with that and be like, why am I feeling crappy? And then remind myself, okay, this is going to pass. Let me move on. What am I up to? What's my vision? What's my why? All of these work together, and compassion is almost just like that anchor for me that bring me back to center. Like, okay, I'm having a bad day, and guess what? This person may be having a bad day too. Do I want to contribute to their bad day? The same way, do I want them to contribute to my bad day? So let me be the change that I want to see, and then compassion is just an easy way for me to do all of that.
Okay, this is the Vegan Life Coach podcast, and you just talked all about coaching yourself, like self-coaching 101. Like, you got it, Sean. That's awesome. I would love to hear some more about your transformation you've been talking about the last 3 years, just your personal transformation. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it started really, I want to say, the beginning of 2017, kind of when I launched SoFlo Vegans. I knew I wasn't happy with my station in life. Mind you, I spent almost 12 years working towards my dream job, which was a district webmaster at Broward County Public Schools, essentially in charge of all of the websites in the county, department schools, and I got to do a lot of video production. So all of my skills just kind of worked together. So I hit a point at that where I hit a ceiling. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't work nights. I couldn't excel anything to get past that ceiling. And then for me, it was like, wow, at the same time, I'm doing all this other side stuff. I'm doing SoFlo, I'm doing other things, managing my marketing agency. I just want to do that full time. So I found myself just daydreaming in my cubicle, like, wow, I wish I was somewhere else. So I started attending these accountability courses. I think it's called Axon. And pretty much they pair you up with different people and you hold yourself accountable into the next meeting, and you share out your results, your flurns, your failure, but you learn.
I like that.
I think is brilliant. Shout out to Dynamo. We give him full credit for everything I'm saying. All but right. One of the things I challenged myself to do was to quit my job and go full-time as an entrepreneur without knowing how it's going to happen. I just said 100 days, I'm going to work for myself full-time. So I'm not going to go too much into the details. I did what I needed to do. I wrote my resignation letter like 10 days out. I submitted it, and it was just like, okay, let's see what happens. I ended up, like, my plan was to pull from my retirement and feed my business and then put that back eventually once my business gets big. So this was July. So July leading up until November, when I would get my first withdrawal, I was like, okay, let me just make sure I can pay my rent. And I magically got checks in the mail for the exact amount that I needed from settlements, and things just worked out. And then it was around that time that Allison and Michelle from Seafood and Wine, they were part of a program called Gratitude. And they have at the end of the year, they usually have like this free, attend the first part for free. I was like, why not? I'm on this journey. Let's see what happens. And then from there, my life just went, I just started to really unbox a lot of the traumas that I was going through my life. Bottom line, I walked out with an awareness of who I am and what I'm operating from. And from that, I could do what I want. I met people, built a community. People have friends that I still have. So my closest friends came from that. Business opportunities arose from that. So I did 3 years of that. I went through the program myself, but then I went back 3 times and coached the program. I captained the program. I went through the trainers program, and it essentially left me in a space of the difficulties are still coming, as an entrepreneur. And I'm sure if you're an entrepreneur listening to this right now, you can attest. It's especially when you're starting off, it's not necessarily easy, but I'm able to handle it with more grace than I would have beforehand. Beforehand, I'd be like, the world's falling apart. What am I going to do? Now it's like, I'm focused on my vision. It's going to work out. I just get put into work. And and then when people are communicating with me, I know setting boundaries of like, okay, do I want to be enrolled into this person, what this person has going on? And but compassion, do I want to be enrolled? Can I add value? Are they open for support? Are they closed? So all these different things that I'm looking at myself, I get to look at others and then be there to support them. So yeah, needless to say, the last 3 years have been transformational for sure. And I recognize that I'm always going to be on this journey, and the importance for me is that I get to enjoy the journey and not just the destination.
That is so powerful. I love that. What do you have in mind in terms of your vision for your life and for your purpose and serving your purpose moving forward?
Yeah, well, my vision is to create a web of vegan communities around the world that anyone can step into regardless of where you are on the journey. So imagine you can go to Australia, Sydney, Australia, and automatically know the community, know where to go, know where the restaurants are, and not just look at it on a map. It's actually having someone like myself go there, scope it out, do a lot of what we're doing in SoFlo Vegans now, set those seeds up so that everybody wins. So that's my vision, where we make this lifestyle inclusive for everybody. And it comes from a place of understanding where you are and how you fit into the equation. And then the community being open enough to not come from a place of judgment of where they are. Remember where they were when they started their journey, and provide love and support. That's what I'm looking for. But at the same time, I like to say it's a spectrum. Everyone's on a different part of their journey. Also be able to provide support for the activists that are out there, because I feel like everyone has their role. I feel like it's not one without the other, because some people respond to that well. Some people need that shock, but other people need more of a light touch. So I wanted to be able to make sure that that's represented within the community. And that's what my vision is.
I love that. It reminds me of some polls I've done on Facebook, Sean, and I do these quite often, of asking what people's biggest challenges are going or staying vegan. And one of the number one, I think the top 2 are non-vegans, judging them and, family and all that. And the second one is other vegans. can you just share your thoughts on that, what that's all about?
It's interesting. From hearing that, I processed that the number one challenge is actually themselves. Because it's you get to radiate what you want. If your challenge is non-vegans, you get to look at what that is, because there's a mirror there reflected right back at you. So that intolerance for eating animals, or not intolerance, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
For eating animals might show up for you somewhere else. Where are you intolerant? Where are you closed to the possibilities? You know, and so that's for me what comes up for me when I hear people say it's vegans and non-vegans. It's like we're all human beings going through this human experience. We have our traumas that we're bringing with us from childhood. We have our day-to-day struggles that we're dealing with. For some people, it's just not a priority to care about the welfare of animals. And once you're able to come to a place, a neutral place from there, you have the maneuverability to connect with that person in a way that creates a significant impact on them, that they may be open to it. But if, for me, and I'm speaking for myself, if I decide to come at them from a place of judgment rather than a place of understanding, once again, I didn't say acceptance, from a place of understanding, then if I truly want to impact that person's life, I get to be an effective communicator, which is another piece of the puzzle where I really want to focus on. And part of that effective communication, going back to what we talked about earlier, is understanding yourself. You know, understanding what's the best way for you to communicate so it lands with someone. But until you do that work on yourself, however you do it, you know, you're going to always bring whatever that parrot, that voice that's in the back of your head, that's going to come through your words and your actions.
Sean, that was brilliant. I just got chills because that response, I've never heard somebody say that response, and it's brilliant. So are you sure you're not a life coach? You kind of are, right? You are.
Through that program.
Yeah.
I got a few things.
Yeah, no, amazing. Let's go back to communities for a moment. And I think about communities, and tell me if I'm off here. We've got the vegan community. We kind of like put this big umbrella under the vegan community, but then there's so many, you know, other communities within the vegan community, not only just in location, but, you know, the animal rights community, the vegan fitness people community, people of color, Black people, and food justice. And how do you kind of organize that in your brain, and how do you utilize that? Do we need to bring everybody together? Is that the thing we need to do, or do we need to just allow people to come at it from their angles? Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to like get the big picture.
I get what you're saying. I mean, I would say we'll meet people where they are, create the diversity, because really, if you look at the vegan community, it's so diverse. There's so many ways to identify yourself within this community. The other beautiful thing about it is that anyone can become vegan. Not everyone can be, you know, in these other communities that's based off of, you know, your geography or your skin complexion or your sexuality, gender, sexual. I think you know what I mean. So it's like, for me, exploring and embracing all of the different types of vegans is important, because I'm looking at that person that's coming in through the front door for the first time. You know, I feel it's important for them to see their tribe, because I've had many people come to me and say, hey, I don't eat meat, I don't, you know, contribute to any exploitation or anything on the animals, but I will not call myself vegan, because I don't like how the community represents itself. And for me, it's like, awesome. You know, ultimately, it's like you're open to the core tenets of why veganism was started in the first place. Labels really don't matter to me. It's more like, what are you doing, you know, to move the needle forward? So having all these different types of vegans, I think is great, because it gives people an opportunity to figure out where they fit in.
Got it. let's talk about flexitarians, plant-based versus vegans versus flexitarians. I think you mentioned you called them future vegans. I think I heard of
pre-vegans.
Pre-vegans, that's it. Tell us about that.
Yes, so pre-vegans actually a book. This is the first time I'm mentioning it. It's a book I'm working on right now. So the way I look at it, flexitarians, pre-vegans, it's a start. You know, it can be very intimidating coming into this space, especially if your main motivation isn't the animals. And that goes a little bit into the plant-based versus the vegan conversation. I believe that those distinctions are important, especially when you get more into the vegan space, because if you're going to actually sit down with somebody that's open to learning more about it, you want to give them the actual information so that way they don't continue, you know, spreading it. But for people who aren't vegan, who are in their space and they're like, hey, I'm vegan and I'm vegan 80% of the time, you know, rather than me doing an eye roll with that, it's kind of like, oh, that's like, what do you have going on? Boom, 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 boom. And once I feel like they're comfortable with me, it's like, oh, I just want to let you know, what you're really describing is plant-based, but it's cool, you know, and here's the reason why they're different. Then it becomes a learning moment rather than it being, well, I'm vegan 80% of the time. How can you be vegan 80% of the time? That doesn't even make any sense. Are you Catholic 80% of the time? You know, so not to say vegan is religion, but it's just like, you know, so that's going back to the compassion. I try to take a pause when I hear those things. Not to say I don't feel a certain way when I hear that, because it's, you know, even if outside exclude myself, just the amount of people that I've spent time with that are super passionate about, you know, saving the animals, and they're out there every week at Miami Sea Aquarium and doing things like that. I feel like it's almost, you know, my responsibility to share, you know, those distinctions, but from an effective way where I'm not turning them off. I was like, fine, I won't be vegan at all. There's my meat sandwich.
Yes. Yeah, I think, you know, and for a lot of our listeners and our clients, we talk about really harnessing our emotions, right, before, and pausing before speaking with somebody, because yes, it's so easy to kind of snap at somebody and turn them off forever, possibly. So yeah, totally get that. Let's talk about your podcast for a moment. When did that launch? Any big moments for the podcast or anything exciting? Because I know you have amazing guests on there. I was a guest. Thank you.
Coming out soon, actually.
Oh yeah.
You'll hear it by the time this comes out.
Sweet. Yeah, talk about the podcast and that journey.
Yeah, I mean, my podcast journey started actually 2007, around the middle of the first podcast wave. I think 2004 is when it started. And I just knew it was the future, you know. And what I experienced from that time was having a podcast is like a magic key to the world. Like I was able to speak to so many CEOs and experts and people I looked up to and admired because, you know, podcasting, even now, not so much now, but now it's still like novel. People know about it. They don't know how to do it. It's almost like writing a book. People know about it. People know they do it. Maybe they listen to it. Maybe they didn't listen to it. But there's like this, oh, cool, I could be on a podcast. So when I decided to do it for SoFlo Vegans, I knew the power behind it, you know, being able to introduce myself to people and get the word out and share, you know, a little bit about my philosophies in the conversation as well. And I've also had the experience of, you know, doing hundreds and hundreds of interviews in my life, from the music industry to, like I mentioned, anime and manga, education. So it's like, I'm at a point right now where I don't really like to, you know, have it super structured when I have a conversation with someone. I rarely ask for questions or anything like that. I do little research, take what I know, and then ask questions and have a conversation with the person. So I ended up leaving each episode just genuinely having a good experience and connecting. So you're listening essentially to me connecting with another person, mostly sometimes for the first time. So yeah, I love the podcast. We're going up until season 8. We have like 12 episode seasons, had some really good episodes. I love the ones where we get to do in person, like we did with you.
Yeah.
But the majority of them are done online, digitally. And yeah, I highly recommend you either starting your own podcast or, you know, being open to being on a podcast. It's great all the way around.
And a lot of our listeners and people that have gone through some of our trainings, they really do feel motivated to start something of their own and to start their own business and step into that. How can you help somebody kind of get over that fear, that the insecurities that come up and the doubts and, you know, all of that comes along with being an entrepreneur? There's no getting away from it, right? But you got to move past it somehow. How do you kind of advise people, maybe if they're just thinking about it and then they keep putting it off because it sounds scary?
I would say what worked for me is to not go at it alone. Find somebody close to you that can hold you accountable, or find groups that are out there. They don't even have to be close to you. There's people who will go in with the intention of holding you accountable for what you want to do. But ultimately, and that's the key part, it has to be something you want to do. You know, you have to be motivated to lose sleep. Like, what cost are you willing to pay for this outcome? Because if you're not willing to pay those costs, the moment you experience discomfort, you're going to stop doing it. So, you know, let me do it in reverse. The first step is to make sure it's something you really want to do, you know, and then once you have that solid, get somebody to hold you accountable. And hold them accountable for what they want to as well. It doesn't have to be a one-way street. It actually works better when you're both holding each other accountable. And then just do it. You know, those 3 things. Be clear on what you want to do. Be accountable. And another way that you can hold yourself accountable is by announcing it publicly. You know, that's something I've recently done. I'm doing another 100-day journey like I did in 2017. And the first thing I did is I let everybody know. And 100 days, March 7th, look out, there's going to be something big happening. And I don't have to go over the details, but it's out there now. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay, so what's coming March
7th?
Yeah.
March 7th. So I launched a 100-day challenge, and this is the same 100-day challenge I did for the first time where I quit my job and went full-time as an entrepreneur. So I only save these for like big shifts and different chapters of my life. And I have a few things that I'm not going to talk about publicly. I decided this time around that I'm just going to show the results as they happen, these different milestones, and you can plug in the pieces as to what will happen. But March 7th is the end of the 100-day challenge I have for myself, and I expect to be extremely happy by then.
Okay.
Not that I'm not now, but you know.
Right. Well, I can't wait. I can't wait to learn what that's all about. What about people who are not in South Florida? Is SoFlo Vegans just for people in South Florida?
Soulful Vegans is for everybody. No, it really is. Because, you know, South Florida, you know, everybody knows South Florida. South Florida is like in LA, it's like a New York, you know, mainly for the partying and vacationing, but it's also a great place to live. I've been lucky enough to go to different cities around the country and explore different vegan communities. And I can say there's nothing like what we have here in South Florida. And if you are not in the area, SoFlo Vegans is a great resource for when you do decide to come down and visit, because not only can you get, you know, a directory of where all these vegan businesses are, you can actually see the owners talking about their why. You can, you know, find out which events are going to be happening when you're down from our calendar. We try to plug in every single event, whether we're part of it or not. So there's just so much to do. But the other piece to it, and what I'm working on for 2022, is I'm going to start doing tours around the globe, actually, to different vegan communities, and planting those seeds so we can eventually start connecting the dots. have sister communities here, or have this pool of all the community organizers can come together and talk about what's working, what's not working, and so that we all can continue to grow together. So you have a similar experience across the board. So that's what my big focus is for the 2022, in the addition of continuing to grow and groom SoFlo Vegans to something that's undeniable for everybody.
Awesome. I love that. And so exciting to travel the globe. I hope this pandemic doesn't, I just want it to go away. And of course your podcast, that's for everybody across the globe. It's amazing. Can we do a sprint round?
Of course.
Yes. Okay. So I've got, I think, like 6 questions for you. If someone asks, how do you get your protein? What's your response?
I would say we get our protein from plants. The amino acids, the building blocks of protein are found in plants to consume by the animals. So we're actually, for the majority of the protein you're getting from the animals, you're getting secondhand protein. So that myth that you have to eat meat is exactly that. It's a myth. You just have to look at yourself. Look at Tory Washington, look at a Curran Sutton, at Jeff Palmer. These are individuals who've been, for some of them, vegan the majority of their life, and I've not seen the headline saying that they are in the hospital for protein deficiency.
Yes, got it. Good. What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
The first thing that I do when I wake up in the morning is I make my bed.
Okay. If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would that food be? Like every day for the rest of your life.
What food for the rest? Rice.
Rice. Any
brown
particular?
rice.
Brown rice.
I love brown rice.
What's a talent or quirk that you have?
A talent or quirk that I have. A talent that I have is like, I have a really good memory when it comes to jingles and theme songs.
Mm.
So it's like, but it's to the point where if like, and music and songs as well. So if someone were to say a phrase like casually, I immediately in my head would pick up a song. And sometimes I'll start singing the song randomly, not knowing why. And then it gets to the point in the song that references what the person says. So that's something. I don't know how you use that,
Yeah, there's gotta be something, or it can just drive you crazy.
As long as I get it out there.
As long as you get it out.
It's like an earworm,
Got it. Okay. What non-human animal do you share a bunch of qualities with?
Wow. What non-human animal?
I know, I'm challenging you.
Do I share? I would say non-human. I don't know. It's showing in my face, but I'm going to say a dolphin. I'm going to say a dolphin because, I would say a dolphin because dolphins are friendly. Dolphins are loving. They're the closest to humans in terms of personality from what I hear, but they also have another side to them that can be flipped and switched, without notice. So it's like that's what I resonate with. So I would say dolphin.
Okay, I like it. Last one, something on your bucket list that you haven't done yet.
Something on my bucket list that I haven't done yet. Travel to Japan.
Japan.
Yeah, okay. I've always wanted to travel to Japan and take in the sights and go to Tokyo and all that good stuff.
Sounds like that is not far away for you.
No.
Okay, well, I have to do a follow-up. What's the second thing you do in the morning?
The second thing I do in the morning, like I wish I could say I have like a meditative practice, I journal, I do all this, but it's typically get up. And the reason I make my bed is because it's one of the things that I've heard, highly productive people do. It's like that one thing, no matter what happens in the day, you can count on this being happen. So that's part of that practice. But I do go to the gym I've been going every day, part of my 100-day challenge. And I find that that puts me in a meditative state. That's my meditation, because I completely black out. I take my glasses off. I literally can't see anybody. And I'm like, I'm that person.
Literally.
If you go to that gym, if you go to the gym and you might not see it, but if you ever see somebody just dancing and just having a good time and they're in their own world, that's me.
That's you.
Like I'm on a treadmill, like singing out the words, and I'm just having fun and all that stuff. And that's the part of the day that I love the most.
I'm with you on that so much. It is so a moving meditation. Just being, in this busy world, and as an entrepreneur, we have so much going on. Like my head is very busy most of the time, right? So just to get to a place where you're present, just fully present in the thing that you're doing, is a beautiful thing. Awesome. Well, Sean, this has been amazing. I am so grateful to you for everything that you're doing for our community here in South Florida, as well as everybody across the globe with your podcast, with SoFlo Vegans, and with this new Pre-Vegans project that you're coming out with in 2022. I'm really excited to see that as well. So thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a really good conversation.